We go to Dominican Republic, to Diario Libre, and with us is Ambar Castillo.
Hola.
Hola.
Bueno, gracias.
Thank you. Some doctors and in some countries, such as in Brazil and Bolivia, they've approved the use of Ivermectin to treat COVID-19, even though the United States FDA hasn't approved it. There aren't conclusive studies of the effects of this medicine on humans. I'd like to know what the WHO's view is on this and what are currently the medicines that are recommended by WHO for the treatment of COVID-19. Thank you.
I will start. So there are a number of treatments that are under clinical evaluation or clinical trials for the treatment of COVID-19. None of those are yet approved for treatment. There are hundreds of clinical trials that are underway. And the reason we need to wait for the results of these studies is because they are evaluating how these medicines, how these drugs work in terms of either preventing infection, preventing someone from progressing to severe disease, preventing death, and how safe they are. Do they have any side effects? And the clinical trials that are underway need to have enough people in them to be able to determine whether or not they are safe and effective. And right now, WHO has launched the Solidarity trial, which is a clinical trial focusing on some drugs, some therapeutics, to look at whether or not these are safe and effective for COVID-19. There are more than 2,500 patients enrolled in this multi-site clinical trial, and the value of something like this at the global level is that you could bring together patients from different hospitals across the world, and you can have enough patients to be able to get to that answer faster. And it will take some time before we have full answers to which treatments work. But right now, we don't have any approved treatments for COVID-19. The treatments that are being used are for symptoms. And some countries are evaluating different therapeutics under these clinical trials.
Yeah, and just to add there, I think what Maria said, I think that the trial designs we have in place are very nimble, and they allow other drugs to be added in as needed, and that means we can move forward faster. And again, we thank the countries who've committed to the Solidarity trials in particular, but there are other trials out there which also need to be supported. I think it's also important to understand that there are many potential drugs that can kill a virus in a test tube, and that's what we call in vitro. It means that you can actually kill a virus by directly applying the drug to the virus, and you can observe how it interferes with the virus function. It's a very different thing to take that drug and then put it into a human. Therefore, the difference between a drug's effect on a virus out of the body and then that drug's capacity to affect the progress of the virus in a body is very different, and that's why trials are very important. And it's really important, and this is what's happening more and more around the world. People are trying older drugs against the virus and seeing what might work. They're also trying new molecules and seeing what might work. When they find drugs that might work in vitro, then they look for any evidence, observational evidence out there that might suggest that the drug has an impact. And then you design the trials in which you introduce the drug safely and in a way that you can ensure that if the drug is safe and efficacious, you can begin to use it. But also, if there's a signal that the drug is not safe or not effective, you can avoid using it. That's the principle of randomized control trials. And there's a very, very well-tested process of doing that. So it's really important that we encourage innovation. We encourage people to be looking for solutions. But then, as those solutions potentially become available, we need to put them through the proper process in the interest of safety, in the interest of efficacy, and in order to make sure that we first do no harm.